Hey folks, hope you're all doing well and welcome back to the channel. Yes, we've taken the summer off, but we're back. Everyone's had things going on in different schedules and Pete was ill, but we finally made it back on. So glad to be back and got some nice messages. Some folks were missing the show, which is always nice to hear. And I just got to mention this one comment that I just got from Christian Haynes that says he loves it when we three guys get together. So that's really much appreciated. That made my day. So today we're talking about Led Zeppelin, and we are talking about deep cuts, not the cuts you hear on the radio constantly, maybe some songs that weren't played much, if at all, live. So, but still great songs and songs that we really enjoy. And we're going to go through a list of 10 songs, deep cuts from Led Zeppelin. And to help me in that endeavor, we have Mr. Pete Pardo and Mr. Martin Popoff. How you gentlemen doing?
Doing okay. Looking forward to talking to some Zeppelin. Very cool.
Talking some, yeah, guys, we were missed.
That's great. It's great to hear. That's really great.
It's really good to hear. The first comment I got today, love when you three guys get together. So that's awesome.
Well, heck, how many years running are we doing this now?
Oh my God. I think we're well into 3. Got to be at least 3.
It's got to be, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But it's nice. I mean, people dig it. You know, they come every month to watch the show and see you guys. And it's nice when you get the positive feedback.
Like they don't get enough of us every Friday morning, right?
Well, apparently not. I guess they can see you guys as many times as they want. They just can't get enough. Yeah. So we got 10 songs here. So you know, I mean, my criteria for this was, was A, that you didn't hear it on the radio a million times. That was like number one. So yes, there is no Stairway to Heaven, at least not on my list. You know, and stuff that maybe you don't really hear on the, like on The Song Remains the Same, or, any of the repackaged stuff, just stuff that really never got as much play on different formats and such as other things. That was sort of my criteria, but
yeah, I kind of did the same thing. I figured, if definitely not radio songs. And then I also looked at like tracks that they always played live. I might have one or two played live a little bit or at one point in time, but not all throughout their career. So yeah, I mean, that's the one good thing about Zeppelin. It's like they weren't around for a million years, so you really can kind of look at this and analyze it and figure it out pretty quickly. Like, what's a good fit for a show like this.
Right. And I have the chat streaming, so this show I can show the chat streaming because I don't have to keep throwing up album covers. So I will be looking at the chat. So if anyone's got comments, feel free to throw them in as we go along here. We got 16 people in here at the moment, so hopefully we'll get some more in as we go. But I don't know, how do you guys want to do this? You want to go 2 at a time, go around 5 times? That sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Okay. So so we'll go. Everything's opposite. So we'll go Pete, and then we'll go Martin, and then we'll go myself. So what are your now, did you put these in any kind of order? I didn't. I just picked 10 songs.
Yeah, I just kind of picked them. I don't think they're in any real order here. So
I definitely are. Mine are in order of getting better up to the favorites kind of thing.
Oh, okay. All right. So we got somebody's ranked them anyway. All right. So let's go, Pete. What do you got for 10 and 9?
All right. So I'm gonna take 2 off the same album here for 10 and 9. I could have picked a ton from this album. But I didn't want to overload it. I do have a few that'll show up, but I'm going to go with Sick Again and the Wanton Song by Led Zeppelin, obviously from Physical Graffiti. And I mean, they're both from the last side of the album. And I mean, Sick Again is just one of those really cool, kind of like heavy bluesy songs from them. And then the Wonton song just has an absolutely killer riff. I love it. Both, I mean, that's the sad thing I think about the Physical Graffiti. It's like, a lot of these tracks never really got played live much. And only a few of them really became like radio staples. There's so much great deep cuts on this album. I mean, I literally could have filled up my entire top 10 with stuff from Physical Graffiti, but I do have a few, but those are the first two I've got here. They're both great. Love them both. And I like the fact that you've got this big sprawling double album, but like they saved a lot of really cool stuff for the end on side 4, which is really neat. I love side 4.
Yeah.
So those are my first two.
You know what I love about the Wonton song? That is the best illustration of how far Bonham is behind the beat. Because if you listen to the riff, and it's like 1,000, boom, there's the shot. It's all, it's always and that's what drives that song and just makes that song groove so amazingly.
Him and Cage are just like working so well together.
Oh.
The riff is just absolutely killer. Just so good. Yeah.
But that drumming on that is just phenomenal. Yeah. All right, Martin, what do you got?
And the big debate about that song, right, is it's spelled Wanton. So it's not wonton as in Chinese soup. It's wonton, right?
Wonton song, yeah.
Right? So it's a weird one, right? And the cool thing about Sick Again, that song always reminded me of Queen's Sweet Lady for some reason. Like just this big kind of stodgy riff crammed into this kind of awkward beat sort of thing, right? But I like the way you framed it as I never really thought of it that way, but I guess a lot of Physical Graffiti is kind of deep cuts, and yet the deep fans really love so much of it, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, so my first two, I went with so I mean, just in a general sense, I did the same thing. I went and looked at setlist.com and looked how often these songs were played and stuff. And I have a couple here that were played, believe it or not, as I get higher up my list. Well, I'll talk about when I get there, but I mean, it sounds like a lot of times, but it's not. When it comes to, Zeppelin had a pretty constricted set list. They played kind of the same things over and over again a lot. But anyways, this definitely qualifies as a deep cut. I went with Wearing and Tearing from Coda. I love the sort of, like it sort of has a bit of a bluegrass sort of riff, and then it stops, and so it's got the stop start thing going. And I love that it's that it's an outtake of that whole, my favorite production era of the band, that whole In Through the Outdoor kind of drum sound that you get with it. But it's a good heavy one. So yeah, that's my first one from Coda. And then I went with Down by the Seaside from Physical Graffiti. Mellow one with the sort of ringing, I don't know, what would you call that guitar? Chorus maybe kind of sound. But reverb, major reverb. But yeah, just a neat kind of shuffling, loping beat. From John. It's, come to think of it, it might be the mellowest song on the whole album, I suppose. Probably is. But yeah, Down by the Seaside definitely counts as a deep track. So there you go, Wearing and Tearing, Down by the Seaside.
All right. Okay. So mine are not in any particular order. But the first one I came up with was Thank You from Zepp 2. Man, that's just such a pretty song. It's so nice and so melodic, and it's just beautiful. I mean, the acoustic guitar, the riff, and the solo is just takes it to another level. It's just a beautiful piece of music. Absolutely love that track. And the other one, and this is a little bit of an odd one, maybe, but this is off the BBC sessions. And I love Traveling Riverside Blues. I think that's such a cool song. Yeah. What a groove, Plant talking about his obsession with lemons, and getting them squeezed, Anyway, but yeah, it's just, you can tell they're having a good time. He's definitely having a good time making up lyrics as he goes along. But yeah, I just love the groove of that, the feel of that, the sort of the swampy blues kind of, flow to the whole thing. Just, yeah, always dug that song. Really, really cool. So there you go.
That's a good one.
All right. What do you got next, Pete?
All right. So I'm going to go to the third album. as the wheel goes round and round and round. I'm going to go with Friends. Really cool, fun. I love side one of this album because I think like every song gives you like a totally different feel. You got some really cool rockers, you got some blues, and you got a little bit of that kind of folky thing. I think Friends is so much fun, and I love the kind of the haunting vocals and the acoustic guitar going on there. I just think it's a really great song, and I think it's a great bridge between the heavier stuff on there. Just so good. Really love that a lot. So that's my next pick. And then I'm going to go with How Many More Times from the first album.
Yeah.
And again, I don't even, did they play this live like way back when? They might have played it a little bit.
I think when they started out, that
really
was on
early,
the
and
set
it just
list.
kind of got forgotten, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those kind of like, real bluesy numbers from the early days, but it's just so kind of ominous. And it's almost, to me, it's almost like the second part of like Dazed and Confused, almost like it's like the sibling to Dazed and Confused. It's got that kind of haunting feel to it. It's got that big cavernous riff and whatnot, and Bonham is just killing it on that. So final song from the first album. How Many More Times?
All right, cool. All righty, what do you got for the next two, Martin?
Okay, definitely another deep track, Ozone Baby from Coda. I even like Darlene quite. Darlene, is it? Yeah, Darlene.
Darlene.
Ozone Baby. I love this. The whole way the I don't know, the riff seems like out of sync with the singing kind of thing on it. It's kind of a cool thing that way, and it's got that walking bass line on it, and again, it's got the great John Bonham beat. They repeat the "Oh My Love" thing a lot in that song.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird, but it's a good mid-pace rocker. It's a rocker. It kind of breaks some rules. It's a hard song to sort of describe as anything. It's like hard pop or melodic hard rock.
It's very poppy. Yeah.
Really cool tune. And next I went with Southbound Saurez from
Oh,
this
yeah.
record. And again, there's a theme here early on. I just love the production on these ones. But yeah, just a cool, joyous kind of shoving, pushing beat from John on it. Just very, very melodic, very catchy. One of the really kind of cool songs on here. I find it interesting that I mean, this is one of my favorite Zepp albums, and I like the songs where they're really breaking out and they're not being bluesy or heavy. They're just trying to do something really different and cool. So there you go, Ozone Baby and Southbound Saurez.
Yeah, that is top 3 Zeppelin for me, that record. Absolutely love that record. So my number 3 is Dancing Days off the Houses of the Holy. That's Page doing the alternate tuning thing. Oh, that riff is just, I don't know, how do you even describe it? It's kind of minor sounding, it's pushing, it's kind of, there's angst to it, it's just it's like I don't know, it's got like an Eastern European thing to it. It's but it grooves at the same time. It's just, holy shit, who comes up with this stuff, man? It's so damn cool. Always loved that song, Dancing Days. The only time I've ever alternate tuned a guitar was to learn how to play that riff. That's the only time I've ever done it, and it's a crazy
punctuated, big cymbal smashes.
Yeah, but dun. Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, and my next one, speaking of crazy riffs, is the Rover off of Physical Graffiti. I mean, like these guys. Like Jimmy Page, I mean, that riff is basically built out of a pentatonic box in F sharp minor. Okay. Everybody and their nephew knows those notes. But to come up with that note combination, and it's a real, if you've ever played that riff, it's not very natural feeling, right? But he's just, the fact that the guy can come up with something so original out of something that's been so, beaten over and played over and over again is just amazing. To me, it's like the same idea as, I talked about this before. The riff. I mean, one of my favorite Iommi riffs is Voodoo off of Mob Rules. Same thing. The guy's playing the A minor pentatonic, like everybody and their nephew plays that, but the combination of notes that he's playing and ringing something new out of something that's been beaten to death is just unbelievable. Like that riff is incredible. It's just it's probably, I don't know, that may be my favorite song off that whole record. I love the Rover. It's fantastic. And I don't think, did they ever play that live?
Can't remember.
Not to
I don't know if they ever have. Yeah,
I've never heard a live version of it.
Yeah, it's
That very well might be my favorite Zeppelin song of all time, and I always pick that. I wanted to pick it for this episode, but I didn't, just because I always talk about the Rover. But I think it's a great pick. And you know what's really cool about it, Hack? He's like, the opening riff, it's kind of distorted. There's a little bit of wah-wah on it there, I detect during parts of it. But then, like, when he's doing the riffing during the chorus, he's using some additional effects there, which I'm like, is it chorus? Could be, because the wah is off during that part. It's just weird how he's using some different sounds and textures between the opening riff and then the riffs on the chorus, which I think is really cool. Kind of like if you go listen to that song, Page is taking you on a journey with all the things that he's doing, which I think is really neat.
And he's got those beautiful arpeggios that he's doing underneath Plant's vocal, you know, dun 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 dun. Like, it's all this musicality coming at you, and it's all just so amazing. It's just amazing.
So heavy, so groovy. I love it. I love it.
Very cool. Very cool.
So, you know, you picked Dancing Days. I originally I struggled with Houses of the Holy, because when you really look at the track list on this album, for me anyway, at least radio here, almost every single song on this album was played on the radio. Even if they weren't released as singles and they weren't hits. Like, because I had the Ocean in my original list, and I took it out because I'm like, that got played. That was on the radio. Yeah, that got played on the. Every song in this album got played on the radio at some point. You know,
it's like I'm just reading here. You know, I still have this book available where every Zepp song is written about, but only snippets of the Rover were ever performed live, although it can be heard on a bootleg recordings of a rehearsal in Chicago from July 6, 1973, demonstrating many Page licks, Bonham fills, and Fiery Jones bass. Not used in the recorded version, but also its full-fledged thumping heaviness as well in advance of Physical Graffiti. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah, and I opened up setlist.com to go through and look at. I mean, they're all there. But it's funny. There's not much of a spread. There are those cool covers at the end. There's some great deep track covers as well. But anyways, that's the deal on the Rover, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go back to the well of Physical Graffiti once again. I'm going to go with In the Light, which I think is terrific. I mean, that's just such like a uplifting, positive, kind of proggy. It's just so different for them, right?
It is proggy.
Sound effects going on, and Plant just sounds amazing, and it's just a really, really cool song. I mean, this album is just chock full of so much variety and different things. That's why when I talk to people and they're like, Physical Graffiti, it's so bloated, there's so much filler on it. I don't hear that at all. I just hear Zeppelin going off into all sorts of different directions, and everything you love about Zeppelin, you know, whether you love the heavy stuff, the bluesy stuff, the folky stuff, the poppy stuff, it's all here, right? In just different forms. So yes, that's my next pick, In the Light. And then I'm going to go with T for One from Presence.
Yeah.
I mean, I really dig it. I love when they do that dark, menacing, bluesy stuff. And just Page is just, his tone on that song is just so, so good. It's a great way to end this album. You know, this album for me, I like this album a lot. Maybe it's a little spotty, but there's some gems on this record, which I think are absolutely great. And T for One is just so, so good. And to me, Page is the star on that one. So yeah, those are my next two.
Sweet.
Cool. More on that later. All right.
Okay. Well, you know, mirroring a pick already picked, I went with Wanton Song off of this. Good technical rocker, short rocker. I love your comment about it. Bonham behind the beat. Yeah, Bonham with those little shuffles beating the spaces on it. You know, obviously, famously, Rainbow's Lady of the Lake is similar to it. And that Sabbath one, I keep forgetting the name of it, is an I off of Dehumanizer. But anyways, there's a few songs. I think there's an Easy O song that sounds like that as well. But yeah, deep enough track. I looked it up on Setlist. This is way, way down near the bottom of the list of how many times. Apparently, around 8 times it was played live. But yeah, great, cool, heavy one off of that. And then I went with Carouselambra, one of my favorite Zepp songs of all time. It's my favorite from here. I guess it's deep track enough. I was a little worried, is it deep enough? But at 10 minutes and 34 seconds, yeah, I don't, I mean, I still do remember hearing it on the radio, but yeah, it's deep enough track. And really cool, fairly proggy, cool sort of bass in it, great keyboards in it. I just love the drum parts on it. This is, I think, John's most groovy drumming I think he ever gets, because I don't think he gets the greatest productions or greatest drum sounds throughout the rest of the catalog, but I think he really gets it on this album. So there you go, Wanton Song, 75, I guess. Carouselambra, 79.
Yeah, like Wonton Song uses that, and Page used it on that song, and he used that idea on, oh my God, Ice and Snow, Immigrant Song. That whole octave, use that idea on those two songs, and it works.
But Hack, go listen to Lady of the Lake on Rainbow, Long Live Rock and Roll. It's hilarious how close it is. It's
really, eh?
Funny. And I thought you were going to say, because I don't know where it is, but I think there's a little bit of Wanton Song somewhere in the Firm or on Coverdale Page. Somewhere in there, I think there's another one that's maybe a little bit like that. I may be wrong about that, but you made me think about that. I don't think there's anything like that on Walking into Clarksdale or anything like that. But.
Yeah, I think it's on the Coverdale Page album. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's on side 2 of the second half of Coverdale Page. I'm trying to think of the name of the song. Yeah,
it's also cool. What's also cool about this riff, and what makes it really cool, is those 2 chords, dun dun. Those are major 7th chords. You don't hear that in a rock band, and that's what adds that extra Jimmy Page spice that makes that riff even better. The guy was he's a genius.
Thanks for mentioning the octave thing, because that's a cool thing of that song. It is an octave jumping song. That whole idea of these octave jumping songs has come up a lot. There might be a cool show in there.
Yeah. He does it in G, and then he plays like the major 7th chords, bom bom, which just they're not major chords, they're major 7th chords, and that's like I don't want to call it jazz, but it's sort of used in that more, not used often in rock, and it just makes it extra special. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But that's the genius of Jimmy Page, right? All right, so I've got and Pete mentioned it a moment ago. I got T for One. I am a sucker for Jimmy Page playing blues. I'm a sucker for Led Zeppelin blues, and that song is just so heavy and just so dramatic and so bluesy and emotive. His playing, it's just holy shit, the guy's he was on fire with that whole song, the solo. It's amazing. I think Since I've Been Loving You is probably my 2 favorite Jimmy Page blues tracks that he's ever done. Right, but I didn't pick because that's on Song Remains the Same, so that's why I didn't pick that one. But T for One, I don't think I've ever heard of them playing that live, so that's there. My second one is off of Presence again, and it's Nobody's Fault But Mine.
Oh, great song, yeah.
That riff, like, that's just so cool. I mean, the riff, he's bouncing off the B and he's playing the open E at the same time to get that. Oh my God. If you're a guitar player and you want to get some ideas, just listen to anything Page has done, because he's the guy's a textbook, man, for ideas and riffs and stuff. And, and the way that riff ends, like it ends on the major, on the major third, like, which gives it again that extra spice. There's all those little things that he does that kind of elevates it from something you've heard a million times before. Just those little nuances and little notes he throws in, or little chord voicings. It's just love that song. Nobody's Fault But Mine. Killer track. I don't know why that's one. Why they wouldn't play that live? I don't know. That's a great song. But anyway, all righty. What do we got?
All right,
7 and 8.
Let's go back to Physical Graffiti for Houses of the Holy. Great song. Great song. Good, catchy hard rocker from the band. Very clever use of chords, and I think the vocal melody is just really, really good. And it's just kind of, that would have fit right at home on the Houses of the Holy album, right? Isn't it weird how it just like overlooked, and like then they said, all right, we'll use it now, right? It's like, whatever. Not, there's really, when you think about it though, based on how long albums were at the time, there's really no room for it. But could you have taken like the Crunge off or something like, or Jamaica off and put that on instead? Might have made a great album even better, right? But whatever. But it's better late than never, right?
Dancing Days, right? They thought it was a little too close to it.
Yeah, I guess. Still fun, great song. I love it. And then my next one, I'm gonna go When the Levee Breaks, which to me is again one of those big epic tracks, and it's just so amazing, and arguably Bonham's greatest moment with the band. I mean, it's just so good, and it's heavy, it's bluesy, it's just epic sounding, and it's just a haunting track. And I think for me, one of the unsung gems on an album that's just chock full of classics. But I think sometimes that song gets overlooked because of everything else that's around.
Yeah, everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just got so much of everything else. But yeah, When the Levee Breaks, just absolutely classic, amazing. And that's my last one for this round.
Cool.
All right. All right, what do we got, Bert?
Houses of the Holy from this record. Yeah, I love the guitar sound on it. I love that it's a rocker. It's right in there with the Rover and Custard Pie. And yeah, vocal melody. That's a great thing to point out. Yeah, the vocal melody is really cool. How it's quite different from what's going on in the music. I never really thought about it that way. But yeah, just a good rocker and a great kind of, again, pushing and shoving sort of beat. The sort of dialogue that he gets going between the hi-hat and the snare and the bass drum is just kind of cool on it, kind of cool offset on it. And then I went with In My Time of Dying. I don't know how deep a track that is. I suppose it's fairly deep. It is a long track. It's always been one of my favorite Zeppelin songs. In fact, I've got it here in my number 3 slot, and it probably is my 3rd favorite Zeppelin song after my 2 and 1. That's why this was super easy for me, because my favorite tracks are these ones that all could have counted as deep tracks. But yeah, it's got that heavy, crazy part in it. Got 2 or 3 different parts. It's another one that's a little bit derivative of an old blues thing, especially in the lyrics. But yeah, it's just a great epic. I think it's their most epic track. The movements that it goes through, I think, is better than Stairway to Heaven by a long shot. It's epic like Achilles, but I think it's I just like all the parts of it a little more. And I like how it's got the heavy metal and the heavy blues together, but they are different parts. So there you go. That is my 4 and 3.
All right. Well, I'm looking at the chat. No one has said anything about that not being a deep track, although somebody was upset that I picked in nobody's fault but mine. I guess they didn't think that was the deep enough track. I apologize. But there it is.
Funny, right? I mean, it's just 8 albums. They've all been played on the radio, I'm sure.
Yeah. I don't remember hearing a lot of that on the radio, at least here. But anyways, so where are we at?
I think
4 and 3 or whatever.
Okay,
4, 7, and 8, however you count them. Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm back on track here. All right, so the next one I've got is from the top 3 records of Zeppelin for me, and Through the Outdoor, 1979. In the Evening. That just the opening alone, when he's playing a Strat and he pulls the whammy bar down and lets it go and gets, and starts. I mean, come on. It's like, I love
really hear from him, right?
No, he's Mr. Les Paul, but I love Jimmy with the Les Paul, but there's that album is just all Strat all the time. But I just love that song, love the riff. It's got that kind of cashmere, kind of Eastern vibe to it. It's got that groove that kind of runs through it. And it's, I love that track. absolutely love it. And the other one I'm going to mention was already mentioned, and it's also in Through the Outdoor, Caras Alhambra. That is just an absolute epic of a track. And for me, the best part is when the guitar comes in like really heavy. It just like comes in like a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
You know, you got all this sort of keyboardy stuff, and then you got this big guitar that just comes in and just piles on. And that riff is just, you know, whatever you want to call it, Geronimo, dinosaur, Godzilla, whatever. But when that thing comes in, man, it's so powerful and epic, and just takes that song to another level, right? You know, I mean, people go on and on about Jimmy Page, you know, on that record. It was, you know, it's a John Paul Jones, Robert Plant record, but his contributions, man, his playing and some of the stuff he's done on, I mean, he's there. He is there on that whole record. He does a lot of tasty stuff throughout this whole record, the riffs and the licks and solos, and it just, yeah, he was there, you know. But there you go. All right, that's my 4 and 3. All right, last two. What do we got, Pete?
So before I divulge my last two, we've been talking a lot about Led Zeppelin epics on this show. Maybe an idea for a future show is to rank the Led Zeppelin epics.
Yeah,
just throwing it out there. So anyway, I'm going to go my number 2, or however we're counting this. I'm going to go Out in the Tiles from Led Zeppelin 3. Just an amazing, Martin, this is like a continuation of our riff series. Here we are singing riffs once again. It's just so cool. And again, a great way to end side 1 of Led Zeppelin 3. I think it starts off with a banger, it ends with a banger, and in between you got mix of heavy and folky and bluesy. It's such a one of my favorite album sides, I think, from this band is Led Zeppelin 3 side 1. It's just an amazing song, and again, nobody ever talks about it. It's not like something they played live and you never heard it on the radio.
Yeah,
so good though. And my number 1 is a song that they did play live a bit early on, but then it disappeared from the set list, never to return again. And it's also another one of my favorite Zeppelin tunes. I think it has a killer riff. It starts off like bluesy, got a little bit of harmonica, and then the riff comes in and it just absolutely slays. And that is Bring It On Home from Led Zeppelin 2.
Yeah,
so good. It's so good. And again, what an album closer, right? What an album closer. It's just like a sledgehammer, man. And that riff is so nasty. It's so good. I absolutely love it. It's funny because everybody spooges over all these other songs on Zeppelin 2, and I get it. But man, for me, my favorite song has always been Bring It On Home from this album. And to me, it's just that's the way you close out an album right there. Just so good. So good.
That riff, the Out in the Tiles riff, I mean, that's a 20-minute long riff, right? But what's really cool about that riff is the drums behind it. He's doing all that busy stuff, but that relatively simple beat behind it, because when the riff's busy, the beat's got to be simple, right? And that's what makes it work, is the drums behind that riff, and makes it killer. Yeah. Very cool.
I mean,
all right.
About this band, right? You had these, especially, the guys playing the music, Plant's doing his own thing, but these 3 guys were just like so in sync, and everything just had to be perfect. And it always was, right?
All right. Yeah, I'm good. I'm going to just bring in the chat here. So Trucker Kev, the paid tourist, is saying, hey, Martin, would you consider Coda a contrarian album?
Well, I mean, contrarian, as in our show, and as in the meaning of the term, is it an album that people pick as their favorite album by a band, and it's a weird one to pick as a favorite album by the band? I mean, I've never heard anybody pick it as the favorite by the band, and of course, it's a little bit different because it's posthumous and it's a odds and sods rarities album, right? So it'd be definitely contrarian to say it's your favorite Zeppelin album. But the funny thing about that record, and it's got a few things people don't really know about, like, oh, they added this and they added this after the fact. Zeppelin was always kind of doing that. Same with the Stones, right? I mean, Stones have 3 or 4 or 5 albums that are basically like Coda, and Physical Graffiti is kind of like Coda, right? So it'd be in an alternate universe, it would have been cool to have had that record come out, while they were all alive and while they were a band, and have it put into there. It's kind of like a cool what if, right? If you took all those songs and you could either use the recordings and then tweak it in the engineering to make it all sound a little more together, because when you listen to Physical Graffiti, you never really think about that, right? You never really think about how these things are from different sessions all over, because for some reason they've squashed it in enough. However they've done it, whatever Jimmy Page magic or engineering magic, they've squashed it in enough that you're never distracted and you think, oh, that's really old and that's recent and kind of thing. Coda would feel like that the way it is. It's cool to think of it as an actual Zeppelin album, but it is definitely a contrarian choice because I've never heard anybody call it their favorite album.
Yeah. Alex2112 says the way you squeeze my lemon. We've talked about lemon squeezing earlier in the show, Alex. That topic's been covered. All right. What do you got, Martin?
Okay, so my top two are Friends from Led Zeppelin 3. I love it. It's so haunting and creepy. It reminds me of the Charles Manson gang and the Hare Krishnas. It's like dark hippie music, right? With that and then Robert really screaming away, right? So
now
it's such a cool dark tune. It's I think some of the most inventive guitar playing on an acoustic level from Jimmy.
Yeah.
And then number one, I'm going with the song that it creepily drones into, Celebration Day.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a deep enough track, guys? I don't know. I mean, it was played 83 times, which is actually way lower down the list. In My Time of Dying, 71 times. It sounds like a lot, but they have a lot of songs way more times than that up the list.
Martin, I don't ever remember hearing it on the radio, and I think other than the fact that they stuck it on Song Remains the Same, like was it the irregular version, the extended version? I don't remember. Yeah, I think it qualifies for sure.
Yeah,
great song.
Yeah, and I love Celebration Day because I think it's Jimmy's most complicated riff. I just love that.
Yeah.
It's a weird riff. It's the weirdest thing he ever got. I wish the recording was different, better, heavier kind of thing. Like it's a very sort of steely, effects-free kind of recording that they get on that album, on everything. I don't think Immigrant Song sounds particularly great either. But I think it's just the coolest thing he ever did in terms of like just a raw riff. I don't know if the lyrics are the coolest or the beat or just even the whole construction, but just that riff's enough to make me just love that tune. So in fact, I often call it my favorite Zeppelin song. I call Friends my second. I call In My Time of Dying my third. This whole list is basically my favorite Zepp songs anyways, because most of the hits, there's almost like the doppelganger show we can do is like rank the hits, right? Because tons of the hits. It's not only that I've heard them way too many times. A lot of them I'm just not a big fan of, kind of thing. But yeah, the deep tracks. So there you go. Two right in a row. Friends, Celebration Day.
All right. We got a question here for Pete. Pete, for God's sake, do an episode on why you hate harmonica. But you love Aerosmith, Zeppelin, and Billy Joel. A lot of harmonica in their catalogs.
Yeah, but the harmonica just shows up briefly here and there in some songs, right? Billy Joel, I mean, there's harmonica in Piano Man, which I'm not a huge fan of that song, but there's hardly any harmonica in the rest of Billy Joel's catalog. I don't mind, like the little bit of harmonica at the beginning of The Wizard by Black Sabbath. I can deal with that. The little bit of harmonica at the beginning of Bring It On Home, I can deal with that. But like these bands where you have harmonica in every song, I can't tolerate it. It's just, I don't really like the sound of the harmonica. When it's used sparingly, I don't mind it. But to hear like a dedicated, it's one of the reasons why like I don't like Jay Giles more than I do, because it's just too much damn harmonica, right? I like them, but too much is just way too much for me. I know plenty of people who don't like the sound of the saxophone, right? It just irks them. I know people, we got one of them right here who doesn't like the sound of the flute, right? There's certain instruments that just don't, don't jive with you. And harmonica and me is just like, it's like oil and vinegar, man. It's just, or I mean, oil and water. And I just don't like it. So.
All right. There's your answer, Robert. Okay. So last two. So these are both, speaking of Coda earlier, these are both from Coda. I got Ozone Baby. Ooh. I mean, that song that's like probably the poppiest they ever got. Like, that's a poppy song with a poppy hook, in the chorus, if you want to call that the chorus part. But I mean, yeah, it's catchy. It's catchy as hell. And yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that on the radio. And here's a really deep cut. And I did a show not too long ago, and there were people that weren't too fond of this song, also off of Coda, but I always loved this song. And it's Darlene. It's got this sort of the rockabilly-ish kind of vibe to it, I got a pink carnation and a pickup truck, and all this kind of thing. But it just, what's cool about it too is a halfway point, it kind of morphs into something else that's even cooler than what it started with. It's Plant doing his pseudo rockabilly Presley, delivery, whatever. But I just really like that song. I think it's really, really cool. I mean, I love when they do the rockabilly stuff. There's that on The Song Remains the Same. Oh man, I'm blanking on what song. They do this extended jam on one song. I can't remember what it is. It might be A Whole Lot of Love. I'm not sure. And they start doing all this rockabilly stuff. Page starts playing all this rockabilly stuff, and Plant. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Then Plant starts kind of just making up lyrics or phrases or whatever. Anyways, when they go into that mode, I absolutely love that stuff. I just love hearing Jimmy play that stuff. So yeah, Darlene off of Coda has always been one of my favorite Zeppelin songs, and it gets no love.
Well, that's got Poor Tom as well, and it's got Wearing and Tearing, right? So it's got really cool.
Walter's Walk. Yeah.
That's what I meant. Yeah, Wearing and Tearing. So I always get those two mixed up, and then it's got the really old You're Gonna Groove on there as well, right?
Yeah, We're Gonna Groove.
There's a lot of good stuff on that album. Yeah,
there is.
In fact, yeah, it's almost like they could have made this almost the best Zeppelin album if they left off I Can't Quit You Baby and Bonzo's Montreux and put something else on. Because other than that, everything's a bona fide banger of an actual well-written, ambitious song. But yeah, it's too bad. And I guess there's only 8 tracks on it. But yeah, if they would have replaced those two with a couple of actual songs, this could have been one of the very best of all of them.
If they put a riff like a riff around Bonzo's Montreux, instead of just all these like sort of sound effects, splashy stuff, sort of what, because they wanted to do a thing with Bonzo. You guys are Kiss fans. On Revenge they did the Car Jam with Eric, where Bruce played a riff. I mean, I'm not comparing the two drummers. Okay, I don't want to get into that. But if Page had come up with sort of like a Moby Dick kind of riff or whatever, and then incorporated that into the with the drums and that might have been a little bit because that Bonzo's Montreux, I can't listen to that. That's just tiresome for me, and that would have been another improvement to that record. But there you go.
I see Tyler 4 Sticks. That's another good choice. I almost picked that.
Oh yeah,
I like 4 Sticks.
Yeah, the heavy drums. Yeah. Well, we got some love for Lefty Mike. My deep cut is Darlene. All right. Trucker Kev likes Darlene more than Hot Dog. There you go.
Yeah,
I like Hot Dog. No,
I like the little opening guitar lick, but the rest of the song.
Yeah, dun 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 dun. All right. Well, this was a lot of fun. All right, guys. So what do you got, Pete? What do you got coming up on the channel you want to mention?
Well, Martin and I will be back together tomorrow morning for the back at the Funhouse. So that's coming up tomorrow. We got the review crew happening on Saturday, and then Sunday I'll be ranking the albums of Corrosion and Conformity. So,
nice.
Kind of stoner rock and metal fans be ranking that whole catalog. So that's coming up on Sunday. So,
all right. Not that most of you in here are from Pete's channel anyway, but if you're not, I have a link to see Tranquility in the down below. So have a look at that. What about Martin? What do you got coming on?
Well, there is the audio podcast, History of 5 Songs with Martin Popoff. I'm up to 270 episodes of that. We've got Kicked in the Teeth, our AC/DC podcast. We got the Contrarians video show. Like I say, the expanded version of this Zeppelin, which is every single song reviewed, is available. The Rainbow Panel book just came out. That's not even at my site yet, but you can messenger me about that. I've been mailing those out. It's called Run to the Wolf. Rainbow on record, and we've got the 2 Genesis ones I'm working on there. We got the Queen live. We got the Zeppelin live. That was another recent one. No, Led Zeppelin, a visual biography. That's another hard. That one is at my site. That's a coffee table book that just came out recently as well. So there you go.
All right, cool. I want to thank everybody for watching. Check out this weekend, Saturday night. I'm going to be going live at 9 p.m. I do that once a month. This is my Saturday to do it. And yeah, check out Recommend an Album to Review. New episode went up today. And hopefully we'll see you guys next time with these gentlemen. It's good to be back. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. You guys hang out for a bit, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Wrong video. This one.